We don't have a quorum, so we won't be able to approve the minutes. But I do want to just get started for those who are on the phone and get started with the discussion on stormwater. So as you recall, we had Jack was kind enough to volunteer to lead a group to look into language. And so this group did get together. I don't quite know how frequently. I think it was sort of ad hoc. But Winnie is the representative for the group today on the stormwater issue. And so, Winnie, I'm going to turn it over to you. And I see that you are on mute. So just to be aware of that. So Winnie, are you there? Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me now?
We can. Yeah. Thank you.
The infamous, can you hear me now? Thank you, Kim, for moving this up. I really appreciate it. You know, Tuesday's just a bad night for me because I'm president of the HOA and I have to be there when they have their meeting. A few weeks ago, 3 members of the task force, Paul Kohlenberger and Bob Montgomery and myself, met with the staff, Jennifer, David, and Mr. Gorning, as well as some other people associated with the stormwater management. And we had, from my perspective, a very good conversation. I asked a lot of questions from the undereducated on this subject. And they were very careful and explained. They had pretty good visuals, and I was very comfortable with the way the meeting went. Everybody asked questions, by the way. All 3 of us participated. For whatever reason, McLean seems to have several deficiencies in the stormwater area. As you probably have been reading about the dead run fixes, and also that the Pivot Run situation, which we've discovered to our disadvantage, roads closed and so forth, houses flooded, needs some work also. So the members of the task force early on apparently suggested that maybe the wording that we were working with was putting too stringent a rule on the on what developers would have to do with stormwater management. They indicated that the 1-inch retention rule particularly could be a problem. As a result of this meeting, and probably before it, it would seem that there is some flexibility that the staff is going to recommend that, particularly on smaller sites, less than an acre, they will relax some of the rules. They will continue to keep them stringent or the 1-inch on the bigger projects. They did suggest several ways to ameliorate this whole situation if you had a property that was smaller. And, you know, I think the great example is that one where they're using the bank beside Janela's. There's no green space there at all. And they could redo it without a lot of bolt digging and so forth with some surface kinds of activity as they redevelop. So I came away pretty positive. And as a representative of surrounding citizens on the task force, I have to tell you, I support strong stormwater standards. This is an issue that's going to affect us for a long, long time. And, you know, perhaps the fact that 40 years ago, somebody didn't address it as stringently as they could is causing us our current problems. So I think we have to, I, for one, let me put it this way. I, for one, will support the county's position on this with the task force as they write that draft. Now, I'm sure there are minority opinions on this from the other two people, not majority opinions perhaps, from the other two people who gathered together on that meeting.
All right. Are there others, either on the, let's start with others on the task force. Do they have any other thoughts or opinions on the interaction with county staff on language and the direction the county wants to go on this?
Do we know what the county wants to go on this?
Whoever, there's a lot of background noise all of a sudden. Okay, Rob, is that you trying to speak? Oh,
This is the one of the a while ago we voted down the lot consolidation requirement that the staff proposed, the consultant proposed, and this was one of the I hadn't thought of it at the time, but this is the kind of example that I'm very concerned about, is that we have all these small lots and they come in and say, oh, we can't do this. I mean, we've got a situation where, because we're so desperate for development, that we'll take any sort of consolidation. Fortunately, the county's tax abatement requires consolidation, but this is the thing that I feared, is because we don't make people consolidate to get this higher density, then they come in and say, well, we can't do the stormwater stuff. So this is a big problem, and I think you're going to get a lot of neighborhood opposition to this. I'll be quiet.
All right, thank you. Others?
I'd like to ask a question. Rob just referred to this. Is it clear what the staff is proposing?
In terms of the actual language?
Well, no, I just wanted to, I mean, having been to the meeting, I just wanted to level set with everyone. We had original language that called for a 1-inch retention standard. That is a standard that is applied to a couple other urban centers, Tyson's and Reston, but generally they get a few more avenues by which to achieve that standard. This was confirmed in the meeting. Also, our stormwater, as Winnie said, is so terrible that even if we put in no BMPs, just some extra green space, we'd see improvements in our stormwater. So I guess I don't disagree necessarily with either Rob or Winnie, but to the point, this subcommittee met without having been able to see any particular language. We were told we would have language by the end of September. Then we were told we'd have new language by tonight. So I'm not sure what we're discussing.
I think we're discussing sort of the general intent of the county staff and the direction. Katie, I think, are you on representing the environmental folks?
Joe's too.
Oh, Joe, are you on?
Yes, I'm on now.
All right. Do you want to respond to when we see language so we can actually get on? You know, I think there is general support for, as we said, the direction. It's just the language now we need to look at.
Right, and we've been having, to answer Paul's question, we don't have specific language tonight. We still want to run that through our DPD leadership, but moreover, we as staff are trying to talk with the capital facilities folks, our building design and construction. We haven't looked at the cost of these various facilities, so what we're trying to do is get a good comparison of small lots and large lots and figure out what the regulatory requirements are and what any proposed standard would mean. Now, the county generally goes above the minimum regulatory requirements when they do things like LEED development, so the LEED rating system for the various lots. So we haven't looked at that yet. So unfortunately, we do not have specific language to give to you tonight. And once we talk about that, we absolutely will run it by you, but we don't have it yet because we want to make sure that, one, internally our senior leadership is okay with any changes, and two, that we then bring it to you. But again, we do want to look at the budget type stuff. So Katie Torgerson from stormwater planning has already looked at the feasibility of doing different size facilities on different lots. And she did have some very basic budget information too she was looking at. But we want to have a little further discussion with other staff before we bring it back to you with particular language.
All right, but you agree with, I guess, the general direction as articulated by Winnie?
Yes, and I came late to the meeting. Sorry about that. I was having trouble with my connections. But yes, in general, we feel that, and Jen has the slide up there, but that's pretty much the conclusion that we've come to is we've got high levels of impervious cover. We've got a lack of stormwater infrastructure leading to some flooding, and something does need to be done about that. So yeah, we do agree with, as Winnie has presented this is an opportunity to do something about it. And we're trying to be very sensitive to the size of the lots and perhaps have a bifurcated system depending on the lot size and whatnot. But again, we have to look a little more closely at that still.
All right, thank you, Joe. Any questions of Joe before we let he and Katie sign off?
I'd just like to thank you and Katie for taking us through some examples and answering some questions for all of us.
Absolutely, and next time we want to have that budget information for you too. So we'll be looking at that as well.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Okay, now I think we have our quorum on the call. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the August 10th and August 31 meetings. Second? Is there a second?
Yes, second.
All right. Let's see.
Where do I find those minutes? I haven't seen them.
They were sent out, and my error because you don't get David's emails. David sent them out on Thursday. So I apologize. I forgot that we can't receive his emails, and I forgot to forward to you. So my apologies.
Well, even that's not very timely.
Well, we sent him out Thursday before Tuesday meeting. That's generally okay. So those in favor of adoption, let's see, I guess we have to have people put their hands up on their screen so I can look at that again. If you can figure out how to use a little hand motion on the participant screen. You have questions to find that again? Let me know. Let's see, I know that Andrew, are you on the phone? I don't think you have access to this, so you might need to be a verbal approval because I think I need your number if you're still on.
I figured out how to do this.
I have my hand up and I also press on the hand on the screen. I'm not sure if you can see that. It doesn't indicate to me what it can.
I don't have a vote from Winnie, Nicole, Kelly, Jim, Edmern.
Well, I vote yes.
Okay, Winnie is yes. Paul? Nicole? All right. They're adopted, and we'll move on to our next topic on the agenda. So as we go into our final, and I wondered, and I don't know how to do, can we do portrait on this? And can someone tell me how? So I can see people on here besides just the person who's speaking. Can someone help me and tell me how to do that on this, on WebEx or whatever we're using? Well, or we can just stick to the agenda. Okay.
There should be, Kim, there should be in your upper right corner, there's some buttons that give you an option to do a side-by-side view and a floating panel view. And that will let you toggle between seeing everyone or the person or just the person that's speaking.
Okay.
When we're sharing a screen, it turns into kind of a film strip at the top.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So, okay, looking at the comprehensive plan text, so we don't have that final language yet from stormwater, but the land use section was modified. Am I correct in that statement? Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
And so we had some responses. So I want to thank Rich particularly for getting his comments in last week, and as we had asked. And I know there was a group that got theirs in yesterday or today. So besides that, we're not going to go through each page again or even each section. I trust that the task force members have reviewed the revised text and they have communicated to staff and myself in thoughts, questions, edits, finding typos, that kind of thing. I do ask that as task force members to go back to the organizations you represent, which is to say your homeowners association, the community organization you're a part of, or whatever, that that folks are well informed of what we have in this document, because they shouldn't be surprised and we don't want to be surprised because they are raising a concern that we may be able to have dealt with earlier. So I do ask that each organization then be prepared, I hope, to support this draft as we look to finalize it. I know there will be, as with every document, and having had a legislative background, every law, every bill that's ever passed that's been modified, there's always going to be something you don't like. What I do ask that we are hopeful that task force members will be in a position to support the final draft and the final product, and to the extent that there are issues that they continue to be concerned about, to attach a separate letter addressed to me that will be part of the task force record, because of course we are at the start of the process to complete a comprehensive plan. So after it goes to us, it goes to the County Planning Commission, and they will review certainly our document. They will review other documents. So if you are a dissenter on a particular piece or language text, that it's an opportunity for you to weigh in at that point in time, as well as individuals in the community and organizations that aren't included on our task force. But again, just don't want to be surprised. And so I do ask that everyone work in a constructive manner to produce the best document, the best represented document of our organizations that we possibly can. So, so with that, I'm going to ask Paul to talk through a document he shared with us that lists a number of concerns he and a number of the chamber, I should say, not the chamber, and a number of HOAs have raised. So Paul, do you want to bring the issues that you addressed in your letter?
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate your words tonight. I don't think we need to go through every piece of text. I think we have worked with homeowner associations, listening to them, figure out areas of common concern. And as you say, we need to be working in a constructive manner and get as much consensus as possible on a number of areas of local community concern. I would note that West Lewinsville Heights Citizens Association has also signed on to the letter, just this evening, and I understand Stoneleigh is going to be considering it shortly. So with that, I move that we adopt the slate of changes that this United Coalition of Community Organizations has proposed to us tonight.
Okay, I'm not sure we're in a position to adopt all your changes, but we're certainly in a position to talk through your suggested changes. So, I mean, you think you have a handful of them. You want to just walk through some of them?
I mean, I expect everyone to have read them. First, the discouraged uses section. This is a section that was not included in the first draft that was submitted to us. It was added in the revised draft later in the spring. Without any
Paul, I'm sorry to interrupt for a second. David or Jen, could you please put the letter up? I think it might be helpful. Sorry.
No worries.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paul.
No, this was a new section that was added in a document that was supposed to reflect community input. There was no community input requesting this section, so that's just the procedural basis. But as you'll note, there's a lot of talk about auto-oriented uses being discouraged. There are certain particular uses that might be useful businesses and services in the CBC that this section would make into a monopoly. And again, we have a lot of these oriented uses. They're convenient. It's really unrealistic to expect them all to go away, and I don't think we'd want them to. So again, we're concerned that if you encourage something in the plan that is going to make any modernizations, upgrades, amendments to special permits or special exceptions non-plan compliant for things like drive-throughs, et cetera. I understand that's not expected as part of center zone development, but most of the CBC is not expected to change. So we really shouldn't be discouraging businesses and landowners from seeking minor zoning approvals. Same thing with minor improvements and temporary placemaking efforts.
Okay, wait, let's get back to discouraged uses. I mean, to the extent as I read this, I see it primarily discouraged. Do you read it differently than that?
I couldn't hear what you asked, Kim.
I'm sorry?
I couldn't, it was garbled on mine. I couldn't hear your question.
It's from somewhere. Maybe, yeah. Rashawn, can we get Rashawn mute?
I'm sorry, Kim, what are you asking?
Oh, to put you on mute.
Oh, okay.
No, if that's an issue, it's just, okay, so.
Yeah, and Kim, I would just add on that section that the task force minutes from, I forget which exact meeting, February or March, explicitly says, the first meeting that we reviewed this revised section, explicitly says that we want these sections out, parcel consolidation and discouraged uses, and they've both remained. So again, if you're asking us to respect the task force as this process moves forward, we have to respect ourselves.
So back to discouraged uses, do you read it differently than discouraging drive-throughs? Because as I read that paragraph, it looks like we're discouraging drive-throughs and not existing drive-throughs. So we've got a McDonald's drive-through in our CBC, but do we need a Wendy's? Do we need Starbucks drive-through? Although it would be helpful, I suppose, to have a drive-through pharmacy. I mean, yes. Anyway, so I'm just, and so it could be a sort of, again, a permuted use. I just don't know that it's as hardened language as you interpret it. And I guess
this language will be interpreted by the staff, if they so desire, to not allow these types of uses. Again, as a process basis, the task force has opposed it, 9 HOAs oppose it, the chamber opposes it, the McLean Planning Committee officially opposes it, and again, I'm asking that we oppose it entirely.
Kim, this is Ben. If you don't mind, if I could just quickly address, I think maybe this issue in particular, but maybe some of the other ones just briefly. I've spoken with staff, and I think my understanding of where this concern arises is the distinction between the center zone and development in the general zone. I mean, I think most folks probably appreciate that we don't really encourage auto-oriented uses, i.e. drive-throughs in the center zone, but certainly there's a desire by many in the community that those types of uses be retained in the general zone. And so staff, we spoke with staff earlier, and Paul, unless I'm mistaken, or if you agree with that, I think staff are prepared to address that in the language that they would bring back to the group. I don't think that even with the form-based codes that we're likely to get auto development. So there's an opportunity to, like Paul mentioned, strike that language, but to address, I think, even just the concern, the perception that we're trying to preclude it, it may be appropriate to retain that language, but make it clear that it is allowed in the general and edge zones. On the other issues, I think, in just quickly reviewing them with staff, I think that there are either tweaks or changes that staff are prepared to make to address, I think, most of the concerns that are raised by this group. And so I don't know if it makes sense to let staff review the material and maybe circle back with Paul and the group instead of, creating double work for everyone when there may be easy solutions ahead.
I love that idea. Paul, does that work for you?
A couple comments. If we retain, first of all, I'm not prepared to negotiate on others' behalf. I've been authorized by other organizations on particular issues, no more, no less. Second of all, if a discouraged uses section remains, that implies an area-wide recommendation. So no, we oppose a discouraged uses section. If the staff would like to make particular changes regarding particular uses, that has already been done as part of the center zone, general zone, et cetera, narratives further up in the planning document. So I think it would be very improper to continue to have a discouraged uses, because the implication would be that there is an area-wide manifestation or ramification of that. I appreciate, Ben, that staff has looked at this and a number of these things, but I would say that to your point about doubling our work, I think it would be better if the task force gave you clear direction supporting the community, which is what we're here for, and see if you have anything to say in return. But I think it would be best if the task force took a position on all these things.
Well, what I would suggest, actually, Paul, is to have the staff come back with each. You've got 2 pages full of items that I'd appreciate then having the staff see if there is. I mean, some I have to say, look like they can be dealt with pretty easily, but honestly, I prefer to have them also weigh in and think if there's something for us to consider versus going through this.
With all due respect, Kim, we've heard from staff quite a lot. This process is supposed to be what the community wants. We are convened to represent the community. And frankly, we've seen 5 different iterations. No explanation is ever given as to why sections are added, why words are changed. By contrast, the chamber has constantly provided comments, been consistent in our input. And I honestly don't feel like it's appropriate to continue pushing the can down the road here. I would like to see some changes made so that when we do take this to the public, the issues that are still contentious are thereby clarified.
Paul, if you don't mind, Paul, I'll give an example. In the letter, there's a recommendation that there be an overhead pedestrian walkway over Old Dominion. Staff are looking at that closely, but there is a concern about the engineering feasibility of being able to construct that. If the task force moves forward and adopts that recommendation, we run into the issue of giving people the false impression that somehow that design has been vetted somehow, and therefore it needs to be implemented, when in reality, no one's looked at it, and we don't know if it can be constructed. So staff, I think, need the opportunity to go through the material, review it, and bring back to the task force their analysis.
In fact, let me address your point there, and I appreciate your reviewing that issue. First of all, it is obviously feasible from an engineering standpoint. The former business bank, now I guess United Bank is in there across from Jay Gilbert's, is specifically built to be a landing zone for that pedestrian bridge over to McLean Central Park. There's absolutely no question this can be done. That was designed 35 years ago. Second, this language does not in any way promise or even support such as grade separated option. It supports the idea of being able to evaluate it, and if the community so desires, establish a proper fund so that any development can contribute to a tangible benefit for the actual community and people that live here.
Right. That's definitely not one that we're going to resolve today. I am going to ask the staff to do this and get back to us. We didn't get this until, what, yesterday afternoon or today. I asked for things last week. I appreciate that you've put a lot of work into it. And Paul, I have to say, you've done a lot of work throughout this whole process. I really appreciate the effort you put in on a regular basis. But I do want to get staff more time. We have to get back on stormwater issues, and we have to deal with the issues that you've raised. I appreciate that you've raised them. We will deal with them, I promise you. But I want staff to have a chance to look at this and then get back to us with other information. I would prefer also for the staff then to look at this and to have the task force, as you have worked out something with Paul, or at least shared information with Paul, that the task force is informed, so that we hopefully can move this forward. So it'll be an open issue as we go into our public meeting. So you're absolutely right. The public has raised these issues, as you mentioned, in the HOA. And so it'll be something that we'll address certainly when we have our open house for the public.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate those thoughts. I would quickly just note that these are not new concerns. Both a number of these HOAs as well as the chamber have continuously raised almost all of these concerns, though not in tandem. I would furthermore say that the McLean Planning Committee opposes a discouraged uses section in its entirety, opposes minor improvements and temporary placemaking efforts. The task force itself opposed discouraged uses. We have been bringing up the transportation vision in every single red line. The McLean Planning Committee opposed the parking management section in its last red line. So has the chamber consistently. Mm-hmm. We have opposed all the language on surface parking provisions consistently. We have opposed new and realigned roads from being placed into the maps and text consistently, as has the task force itself on numerous occasions. You know, these are not new issues. The issue is that we are never listened to.
Yeah, I think we've cleared them up though and moved on. And then I think perhaps you're unhappy with the outcome. So again, this is done. And so by all means, we're going to continue working on this. But Jim, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm asking, are we asking the staff to develop a list of uses that would allow a drive-through?
No.
We're not.
No.
So what the hell are we asking staff to do?
We're asking staff to look at that issue, whether or not we would want a restriction in place for the center zone, and allow more flexibility for various uses in the general and edge zones. And then to just further discussion and outreach with Paul and the groups that he is working with.
I'm glad I'm not on staff on this one.
And why, I'm sorry? And I didn't catch your last comment, Jim, sorry.
I've made a snarky comment. I'm glad I'm not on staff on this one.
Anyway, so we will have that comments back to us in time for our next meeting, which will be in November after our meeting with the public that's now scheduled for the 7th. We had talked about it, doing it on the 24th of October, and I think given a number of open-ended issues and presentations that the staff wants to have, we're going to push that back to November 7th. It would be really helpful for all the task force members to reach out to the organizations again that they represent, their neighborhoods, their local networks, their friends, whatever, to see if we can't have a really good discussion and share the vision that the task force has put together for the community, and have a good attendance at this meeting. I don't know, Jen and David, Leanna, if you want to comment at all, or Ben, you want to comment at all on what our expectations are for the presentation on Saturday, November 7th.
So I heard what I think I heard. So the public meeting now is being pushed back from October 24th to November 7th. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that's a virtual meeting, correct?
Correct.
Thanks.
All right, Jen?
Sure. So I can share some information about the open house, some of our thinking on both the format and how we want to get the word out. And I think we've got a quick slide on that. And Kim, I appreciate you reinforcing this message of sharing the date and inviting everyone to attend, as we really want to get the most interest and the most feedback that we can from this event. So this open house, we're looking at scheduling now for the 7th. It's still going to be in the morning. And I just wanted to let everybody know sort of the notification effort that we are undertaking for this meeting. I think it switched to there we go. So we will be sending a postcard mailing out to property owners within the CBC, as well as an approximately 200-foot buffer area outside of the CBC. So that's about 1,900 addresses that we will get mailings out to. So please be on the lookout for that a couple weeks before that date. In addition to the postcard mailing, we will be looking to do social media with Facebook, Nextdoor, as well as making sure there are announcements in Supervisor Faust's weekly updates. We'll also get a press release or a news release out through our Office of Public Affairs. So we're really trying to cover as many channels as we can to let everybody know about this meeting. In addition to the event itself, staff is looking to record a few narrated PowerPoints or some videos that highlight the major topics that are included in this draft plan. For example, we want to make sure that everyone is kind of up to speed in terms of what the recommendations are, and they understand that this effort started with the vision plan, and now we're at the place where the task force and the community and staff have come up with recommendations that had come out of that effort. There also will be topics on transportation, for example, and open space, and we want them to be informative, but we also want to be mindful of the time, so to keep them relatively short to grab people's attention. We're hoping that everyone will watch those prior to the open house to get up to speed on the study. We also want to make sure that we have updated our frequently asked questions section of our website, so to ensure that we are covering, again, those major topics that have come up through the meetings, and we are providing those answers in advance if we can. After the open house, we certainly want to extend a community review and comment period for several weeks to give everyone a chance to digest the information, to think through comments and questions. And we're also looking to host potentially another shorter question and answer session. We sort of framed it internally, we've discussed it as like a lunch and learn, where we'll think through how that could go, but an opportunity for folks to either make an appointment with staff or call in at a time and talk more informally through some questions and comments. So that's something that we are very interested in doing after the open house. And then again, after the event, we would come back with the task force and review all of the feedback and get your thoughts on that.
Thank you. Rashawn, I see your hand is up. Do you have a question? If so, you're on mute.
I think my hand is not up, Kim. It must have been from previous
Okay.
approval.
All right, thank you. So any questions for staff? One of the things that would be really helpful is for you all to think through what you think the likeliest questions are that we and the staff will get from the community. There are the obvious ones: parking, schools, traffic, that we can think of for certain, but perhaps more specific questions I think would be really helpful for you to think through and share them with staff, share them with me, so we can be best prepared for the kinds of questions to expect. So would appreciate everyone weighing in on that one. Any questions again for staff?
Yeah, I've got a question for David and Jen. We're still, for you guys on information, we're still working on the edge transition between the McLean Square property and the surrounding citizens. It's going pretty well, but it's not. Do I understand that we're still going to be able to incorporate whatever we decide into the document?
Yes, Jim. So you, the commitment from the task force to you is to that we agreed with your position to ensure a transition. And the question I think that the staff is trying to get to is the best way to do that. Excuse me. So yeah, so we definitely will be including language in this draft that will address that issue.
Yeah, well, for information, I've sent staff well, we've had a meeting. I sent some information. We had a meeting on it, virtual meeting. Then I sent a response today and got a response back from staff that thanking me, blah, blah, blah. But we're making progress, but this is a tough area because of the particular issues around the surrounding citizens, the park, and et cetera. It's bifurcated pretty badly. So one design is not going to fit all, but I think staff and myself can come up with something.
That would be great, Jim. Thank you for all your work on that one. I appreciate your focus on that. Okay, so
By the way, I'll send a copy to you. I did not info you.
yeah, okay, that would be.
I'll info you.
Thank you, Jim.
Well.
Okay, so any other questions before we move on to the comprehensive plan graphics? Do you have is that David? Are you doing that?
So Zach, I believe that'll be
Zach
Pyle. Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey, Zach. All right, so these are, this looks good.
Jen, do you want me to go through these?
Sure. So we wanted to bring forward to the task force some ideas we have for including some more graphics into the comprehensive plan that could illustrate potential ways that development could be achieved with the draft recommendations. So Zach has been working to show representations of that, and we wanted to share that with you all, so you all had a sense of how that was shaping up. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. I'll go through these, and then I guess if there's any questions, I can pause after each one and I'll go that way. This one here, this here is not really in McLean, but it shows what the shared use path would look like with the pedestrians and the bicyclists. Instead of having this separate cycle lane and a separate pedestrian area, it shows how the whole area could be used by both user groups, and also shows a little bit of the outdoor seating area and eating areas and different things you can do on the streetscape. You also have like a landscape panel along the road here, places for people to sit, places to lock up bikes, on-street parking here, it looks like, and signage to show people that this is a shared use path, not to be surprised, bikes come by or people walking down the street, just so everyone's aware.
All right. Do you have another as well as that, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't control the. I guess maybe David, maybe.
All right.
Sorry. This one here. This is a view of the Sunrise development that's been approved. The brownish red building is Sunrise Senior Living Center, and beside it is the. It's kind of like this conceptual what could happen next door. In terms of residential and mixed use purposes. It's completely conceptual. It's not anything planned. It's a yellow building, but the Sunrise has been approved, and that's the based on the rendering from the architect there.
All right. Thank you.
This here in the plan, there's a proposal to make Elm Street partially pedestrian oriented. And this shows kind of where Bridge Road and Elm Street meet. There's a nursery that's still here, kind of seeing the rendering a little bit, and a restaurant and kind of an existing park over on to the left. And this just shows how this area could be used for a pedestrian-oriented area, as well as bicyclists and just an improved streetscape.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I think there's maybe two more. Okay. This here just shows a little bit of, I think this is on, I forget the name of the road. The post office building, how it could be redeveloped to be a bigger building, more capacity for residential units, as well as more office space. And the building below, I think it's currently the Innova building, how it could be redeveloped here as mixed use as well. And it shows a little pocket park here, and also the shared use path along the road.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
And I think this is the final one here. This shows, these are all drafts. I'm going to be improving them by input from people, but this shows the transition between the downtown streetscape where you have the shared use path between the pedestrians and bicyclists into the more suburban style bike path, walking path to the residential area. And over here on the right, you can see the beginning of where it turns into an asphalt walkway. There's kind of a little bit of a intersection plaza here where people can gather and make sure they're safe to cross the road. And then it transitions into this shared use path. And some of the buildings here just shows like the potential with some little bit of upgrades and different changes to them, how it can make the streetscape more desirable and also better, I guess, presented there. So.
All right. Thank you.
I've got a concern. I like these, but I think what you need to also show is the 12-story building surrounded by 7-story buildings in the bonus zone. I think if you just show this and then we talk about this other stuff where people see it later on, you're going to unnecessarily irritate and anger people. They need to have something in there that we're going to show what, and you can show the under today's rules, the half-acre park with it, but I think you really need to show the big buildings too, or we're just going to be unnecessarily misleading people that won't help the process in the long run.
That's a good. Thank you. Other thoughts and suggestions?
Yeah, I would go even further and say that the main change that we're making here, we're making a lot of changes, but the main one is the center zone. And if that's not shown and understand publicly, when we get to actually come in and propose a 12-story building, then the stuff's going to hit the fan. We got to show that. People got to understand that and approve it or disapprove it going in, or else we're going to be in trouble, or the plan will be in trouble.
Right. Yeah, good point. All right. Other thoughts? Is that anything else the task force members, staff would like to raise before we open it up for questions, comments from the public? All right, with that, let's see, Tim, if you can help us get any questions from the public who are on the call as well.
All right, David, that might have to be you because I can't open the attendee list.
Okay, if any of the attendees have a call, have a comment, please raise your hand. I think
I see one call-in user has his hand up. You can't tell the name.
okay, the person who has their hand raised is unmuted. We have a caller with their hand raised. 703-821 are the first digits of their number, and you're unmuted. You can speak now.
Hi, thank you. This is April George. So I just have a quick question. Will this be only one open house for the community, or will there be other meetings to follow up?
Right. Jen?
So this is one event. This is one event that we're planning to host. We are, again, looking at the sort of supplemental shorter question and answer that could happen after the meeting. And I know we also understand there may be other requests for individual groups for us to come meet with them, and we will certainly talk through that in terms of staffing. But right now, we are planning just one open house.
You may meet resistance about that. You want to know concerns in advance. And I think the way it started, we had many community gatherings. And this is a lot of information for the residents who know nothing. Many of them don't, to digest. And you may want to consider seriously, this is your intro. Let them digest it and do at least one more follow-up. I think if you don't, you will be in trouble. If you want to rush this, you want to just get it past the community, have an open house, quick, show some pictures, and that's it. But I think you might need another meeting other than one. So think about it, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I do see one more. Suzanne, I'm unmuting you. Please.
Thank you very much. You addressed it briefly earlier when you were talking about what you expected the comments from the public to be, and you just quickly passed over the issue of schools and overcrowding. And I looked through all of the plans on your website, and every time you mention a school, the solution that is brought up is to add trailers or modulars. And that's just kind of unacceptable. We're already overcrowded. So what is the realistic expectation? And not just saying that the county school board will fix it, because we know they will not. But what is the expectation that you all can do something about this? Thank you.
All right, good question. Who would like to take that question? Staff.
This is Leanna O'Donnell. In our latest draft of the plan language, we have guidance that speaks to different mitigation options for schools if there's a point at which that mitigation is needed. And it's the latest draft. It begins on page 16. And so if you've not yet had a chance to look at that, I would encourage you to do that. Basically, it goes over a variety of measures that can be used to mitigate impact on schools. What happens is that when development projects come in to implement a portion of the plan, the school staff provides our zoning staff with information on school capacity, and then those mitigations are discussed. We are looking at this language to make sure it's as strong as it can be, and we're thinking about ideas such as some sort of look back reporting that we would do to kind of check where we are in terms of implementation of the plan. You know, the development potential that we're looking at would certainly not happen all at once. We're looking at kind of a 20+ year planning horizon. So certainly those impacts would be tracked regularly.
All right, other questions?
I don't see any other panel guest if their hands raised. If anyone has a question, please raise their hand.
If may I add, if you're calling, you can do the *3, right?
We do have one more person actually who is called in, and you may.
Hi, I don't know if this is really a question, but it's more of a comment. You know, I'm a property owner whose property abuts the McLean Professional Center, and I noticed that the plan dated February 5th, at least as I read it on the website, states that the edge zone is generally not envisioned for intensification of existing uses. A maximum building height of 3 stories is recommended to reflect the existing building heights. But the revision dated June the 24th states the McLean Professional Park is allowed a maximum height of 40 feet, which is almost double the existing structure. And for that reason, I cannot support the plan. And that's a comment rather than a question.
All right, I don't know if staff wants to tackle that one as well in terms of, I don't know, just a change of the general zone and how we're determining heights, if that's the issue. Obviously, the existing facility will have the ability under the current comp plan to be higher than it is currently, even though that building is only as high as it is obviously today. I don't know if staff has anything else.
I'm looking at, we can certainly double check in the edge zone. For properties that are in the edge zone, we brought forward existing plan guidance. So, I'm trying to pull it up now if we're in E3. So that's likely where that came from. But so that was the approach. The portion of the McLean Professional Park in E3. So E is one of the edge zones. That's existing plan guidance that has that height maximum listed. That's not new guidance for the edge. So what we did with all of the edge zone was bring forward existing comprehensive plan guidance. And whereas the center zones and the general zones would fall under the new redevelopment options.
Right, so that is to say that current site, should the owner decide to build something new on that site, regardless of what we do today, or whenever we pass this, they will still be able to go to that 40 feet height.
That's right. That's existing guidance.
Yeah. All right, anything?
Once again, that's almost double the height that's there now. You know, the previous plan said that, you know, you would try to maintain the existing structure dimensions.
Right. And again, they have the ability under the current comprehensive plan to go up to 40 feet. We don't change. It's just it's what they have the ability to do today.
Part of the vision plan, and you're correct, the character descriptions talk about basically the existing development as identifying the character for the edge. What we then have to look at is existing plan guidance and kind of try to marry those two with, you know, the edge zone is not encouraged for redevelopment under these new redevelopment options, but matching that up with existing plan guidance that those properties currently have.
All right. Anything else?
I don't see any more attendees with their hands raised.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and we will
Suzanne Pickens
between now and November 7th.
I think Suzanne Pickens had her hand.
Oh, Suzanne already spoke.
Sorry.
It's okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.